On the riverbank, there was a blonde-haired boy lying down, staring at the sky. The boy said that he was very bored. In front of him, there was a group of boys bullying another boy who wore glasses. One of the group members spoke up and ordered the boy with glasses to strip and jump into the river. Another one suggested tying up the boy with glasses. The blonde-haired boy, who saw this, immediately got up and picked up a stone. He threw the stone into the river near the group. Everyone there was splashed by the water caused by the stone. The blonde-haired boy continued throwing stones at them. His throws were so strong that the ground around him started to smoke. The group realized that the boy throwing stones was named Sakamaki Izayo. They, along with the boy with glasses, quickly ran away from the place. Izayoi mocked the group, saying that they were all talk. Izayoi threw the remaining stone he was holding and grabbed his bag. Suddenly, an envelope fell from the sky. The envelope had the name Sakamaki Izayoi written on it. In a house, a girl was standing in her room. She saw an envelope with her name on it lying on the table. The girl's name was Kodu Asuka. Asuka didn't know where the envelope with her name on it came from. A maid, who was carrying a drink, entered Asuka's room. Asuka asked the maid if anyone had entered her room while she was out. The maid answered that no one had. Asuka wanted to be sure and asked the maid to answer truthfully. She asked while staring intensely into the maid's eyes. The maid answered that no one had entered Asuka's room, as Asuka was the only one who had the key to the room. Asuka then ordered the maid to leave her room. She picked up the letter and then spoke. She said that the person targeting her had instead sent a letter, which made her curious. In a park, there was a girl sitting near a fountain. She was playing with birds. Suddenly, a cat carrying an envelope ran toward the girl. The cat handed the envelope to the girl. The name written on the envelope was Kasukabeyu. Kasukabe took the envelope and then opened it. She read the letter inside the envelope. The letter contained an invitation to a place called Little Garden. Suddenly, Kasukabe vanished and fell into a certain place. She fell along with Izayoi and Asuka, who had also received an envelope. They fell and splashed into a lake. A rabbit-eared person approached and observed them. They moved to the shore and tried to dry their wet clothes. They began talking and asking each other's identities. They ended up there because they had received a strange letter. Asuka introduced herself and then asked Kasukabe to introduce herself as well. She also asked Izayo to introduce himself too. Izayoi introduced his name and mentioned the dangerous abilities he possessed. He warned Kasukabe and Asuka to be cautious around him. Asuka was annoyed and refused to listen to Izayo. The two of them then argued. A rabbit-eared woman grew worried about Izayoi and Asuka fighting. Izayoi and the others were puzzled because no one had come to greet them. Izayoi suggested asking the person who was watching them. He and Asuka had already noticed this person's presence. Kasukabe also realized someone was there due to the direction of the wind. Izayoi told the person to come out immediately. The person emerged from the bushes and revealed herself. She was a rabbit-eared woman. Izayoi leaped and attacked the tree beside the woman. Asuka and Kasukabe thought the woman was wearing a cosplay outfit. The woman denied it and introduced herself as Koro Usagi. Izayoi jumped and attacked Koro Usagi. Kasukabe leaped into the tree and attacked Koro Usagi, moving like a four-legged animal. Koro Usagi jumped over the tree while dodging Kasukabe's chase. Asuka looked up at the birds in the sky. She ordered the birds to attack Koro Usagi. The birds attacked Koro Usagi, causing her to fall. Izayoi and the others approached Koro Usagi. They asked for Koro Usagi's identity. Kasukabe stepped forward and tugged on Koro Usagi's ears. She laughed after realizing Koro Usagi's ears were real. Izayoi and Asuka stepped forward and pulled on Koro Usagi's ears. The woman winced in pain as her ears were pulled by both of them. Izayoi ordered Koro Usagi to speak. Koro Usagi welcomed Izayoi and the others. Izayoi and the others were in Little Garden. Koro Usagi offered them to participate in a gift game and win prizes. Izayoi and the others were not ordinary humans. They possessed powers or blessings known as gifts, which were given by war gods, demons, spirits, stars, and others. A gift game is a competition that uses or bets these blessings. There are various stakes in the game, such as gifts, money, land, resources, dignity, and people. The bigger the stakes they bet, the bigger the prize they can win. But to claim the prize, they must meet the conditions set by the host. The host is the person who leads and organizes the gift game. Anyone can become a host as long as they have a prize. The difficulty level of the games ranges from dangerous, difficult, to life-threatening. Kuru Usagi was sure that Izayoi and the others did not fully understand her explanation. So she offered to play a simple game. She pulled out a deck of cards and shuffled them. There are many communities in that world. The residents must join these communities to make their lives easier. Kuru Usagi snapped her fingers and conjured up a gambling table. She then invited Izayoi and the others to join her community. However, to avoid any issues, they needed to win many gift games. Kuru Usagi mocked them, thinking they would not be able to complete the gift games. She provoked them, but in reality, she was worried they would leave because of her words. Izayoi asked Kuru Usagi about the rules of the game. Kuru Usagi explained the game rules. They had to choose one card from 52 available cards. They only had one chance. They could use their abilities as long as they did not break the rules. Kuru Usagi had the ability of Judge Master. Her rabbit ears and eyes were connected to the central network of Little Garden. Since it was Izayoi and the others' first time in Little Garden, they did not need to use chips to play. But if they insisted, they could bet their pride. If they won, Kuru Usagi would grant one of their wishes. Izayoi joked and thought of something sexual. However, Kuru Usagi forbade Izayoi. Then the three of them discussed the matter. They all agreed to play. Kuru Usagi produced a piece of paper in front of her. The paper was a G's roll, which was a type of contract related to the game. The rules and conditions of the game were written on that paper. The three of them read the paper and agreed to it, but they requested to see the cards before the game started. Izayoi examined the cards carefully. Asuka marked one of the cards with her hand. Kasukabe used her cat saliva to mark one of the cards. They began the game. Izayoi volunteered and stepped forward. He observed all the cards arranged on the table. He looked at Kuru Usagi and spoke to her. He selected one card and tapped it. The other cards flew and turned over. Kasukabe and Asuka picked up the overturned cards. They did not break the rules since they only took one card from the table. Kuru Usagi used her ears, but the central network of Little Garden deemed their method acceptable. Asuka and Kasukabe won the game. Izayoi revealed the card he had chosen. He picked the right card because he remembered all the card positions. Kuru Usagi was surprised by Izayoi's ability. Izayoi spoke to Kuru Usagi and asked for the promised prize. He requested Kuru Usagi to answer one of his questions. He asked if the world in Little Garden was enjoyable. Kuru Usagi answered that the world was indeed enjoyable. In a certain place, there was a boy named Jin who was sitting down. Then, three children approached Jin. They talked about Kuru Usagi. One boy encouraged Jin, who had become the leader of the community. After that, the three of them left Jin. From a distance, Kuru Usagi came and called out to Jin. Jin greeted Kuru Usagi. Kuru Usagi was about to introduce Izayoi and the others, but she was surprised because Izayoi had disappeared. Izayoi said that he would go and see the end of the world. Kuru Usagi was angry because Asuka and Kasukabe didn't stop Izayoi. They didn't inform her when Izayoi vanished. The two of them actually didn't want to bother with Izayoi. Kuru Usagi felt weak after hearing what they said. Then, she instructed Jin to lead the journey with Asuka and Kasukabe. Meanwhile, she planned to catch Izayoi who had disappeared. Her hair, ears, and tail turned red. Then she jumped very quickly. Asuka was impressed by how fast Kuru Usagi could leap. Jin guided Asuka and Kasukabe into a gate. They walked through a corridor inside the gate. They reached the end of the corridor and saw the place ahead. They saw a fountain and various people there. They could see the sun from that room, but there was actually a transparent cover above the place. That cover functioned to protect races that couldn't be exposed to direct sunlight. There were various races living in that place. There were many districts in the eastern part, which caused everyone to live in harmony. Then Jin invited Kasukabe and Asuka to have a drink first. Kuru Usagi passed through a forest while leaping. She looked around and searched for Izao. Around the forest, there was a god who used that area as his game territory. She was worried that Izao might be deceived and trapped by the god's game. She saw an attack coming from the river and found Izao standing there. She was angry with Izao. She was worried that Izao had challenged the god to a gift game. She ordered Izao to go home immediately, but Izao had already started a gift game with the god. The river shook, and a giant snake emerged from the water. It turned out that the snake was a water god. Previously, he had asked Izao to choose a game. Izao accepted because he thought he could make a lot of money. The god was angry and caused the river to shake again. Kuru Usagi told Izao to back off, but Izao refused. He had chosen this battle, so he wanted to finish it. The water god was impressed with Izao's determination. Then he gave him the conditions for victory. The water god would declare Izao the winner if he could withstand the water god's attack. However, Izao rejected this. The battle would only end when a winner was decided. The water god created a storm using the river water. He attacked Izao with the storm, but Izao used his hand to destroy the storm. The water god was shocked. Izao jumped and then kicked the water god's head. The water god fell after being hit by Izao's attack. Kuru Usagi was impressed that Izao, a human, managed to defeat a god. Jin and the others were already seated and had just ordered drinks from the waiter. They ordered 2 black teas and 1 green tea. Kasukabe's cat, named Calico, spoke to the waiter. The waiter was able to understand what Calico was saying because she belonged to the cat race. Calico complimented the waiter, saying that her ears and tail were very cute. The waiter blushed after hearing Calico's words. Kasukabe was impressed that someone else could talk with Calico besides herself. She had previously spoken with sparrows, finches, forest birds, and even penguins. She was also friends with dolphins. Asuka was impressed by Kasukabe's remarkable ability. She felt envious of Kasukabe. However, Kasukabe thought that Asuka had a similar power to hers. Asuka was about to explain her abilities when suddenly a man appeared. The man mocked Jin, calling him the leader of the weakest community in the eastern part. That man was named Galdo Gasper. He was the leader of the Forest Gato community. Kuru Usagi was pleased because they received a reward after defeating the water god. They were given the seeds of a great water tree. She thanked Izao, but Izao wanted to ask Kuru Usagi something. He questioned whether Kuru Usagi had hidden something that violated their agreement. He insisted that Kuru Usagi reveal the real reason for sending him and the others. Kuru Usagi was shocked after hearing Izao's words. After defeating the water god, Izao asked Kuru Usagi to explain why she invited him. Kuru Usagi said that Izao and the others had intriguing gifts. Izao didn't believe Kuru Usagi's words. He felt that Kuru Usagi's community was very weak. He suspected that something had happened and that her community had declined. He was certain that Kuru Usagi had lied to him. Jin was angry because Galdo sat down without asking for her permission. Galdo ignored Jin, as he had come to speak with Asuka and Kasukabe. He invited the two of them and Kuru Usagi to join his community. Kuru Usagi finally revealed the reason she invited Izao. Her community was in trouble. Communities were like countries. They had to declare a symbol and an official name to operate. Several years ago, their community symbol spread to the edge of the eastern continent. But one day, they became the target of an enemy they should have avoided. After that, their community was destroyed in one night. Jin's leadership now was just a remnant of the past. Jin's former community collapsed in one night because of the greatest terror in Little Garden. That terror was the Demon Lord. No one could refuse when the Demon Lord challenged someone to a gift game. Jin's community was forced to participate in the Demon Lord's gift game and was ultimately destroyed. The power of the Demon Lord was overwhelming. Kuru Usagi's community lost in the gift game, causing their community's name and symbol to be stripped away, leaving them as no name. Now, their community had no core members. The only ones who could participate in the gift game were Jin and herself. The remaining 120 members were all children under 10 years old. But those children were trying to survive. They fetched water from a distant river every day. They lived in an arid area where nothing could grow. Isekai was curious why the community hadn't been disbanded. Kuru Usagi couldn't do that because she wanted to protect her friend's home. They planned to reclaim their name and symbol from the Demon Lord one day. They would rebuild their community after that. Therefore, they could only rely on the great strength of players like Isekai. Kuru Usagi asked Isekai to help her community. Isekai thought for a moment and decided to help them. He would reclaim the flag in honor from the Demon Lord. He found helping them to be a romantic reason. After that, Kuru Usagi thanked Isekai. Galdo asked Kasukabe and Asuka to join him because Jin's community had no advantages. Galdo's community always won every gift game that involved symbols, and now they controlled the area. Galdo asked again for Asuka and Kasukabe to join his community. However, Asuka refused. She chose to join Jin's community. Kasukabe had only come to that place to find friends. Galdo asked Asuka why she refused his request. Asuka had already left behind her wealth, family name, and future to come to this world. She didn't want to join Galdo's community, which had a privileged environment. Galdo became angry, but Asuka used her power. She asked Jin about the games that involved betting their symbols and names. Apart from the games that couldn't be avoided, such games were rare. Asuka was puzzled as to how Galdo, who wasn't a demon lord, could win all of those games. She used her power to compel Galdo to reveal how he was able to win every game. Galdo's community kidnapped women and children from enemy communities. Then they threatened and forced those communities to participate in their games. They had abducted children from each community with the intention of controlling the communities they had taken over. Asuka asked where the children were, but it turned out that Galdo had already killed them all. They cried on the first day Galdo kidnapped them, so he ended up killing them all without realizing it. Since then, he always killed the children he took on the same day. He disposed of the children's bodies to avoid getting caught. Before Galdo could finish speaking, Asuka told him to be quiet. She mocked Galdo for his actions and then released her power. Galdo transformed into a tiger and attacked Asuka. However, Kasukabe knocked Galdo down and restrained him. Asuka gave Galdo two choices. The first was that Galdo had to kill everyone there. The second was that Galdo had to surrender to someone who could judge him. Both choices would eventually lead to Galdo's death. However, Asuka offered Galdo an alternative. She suggested that Galdo play a gift game with her. Galdo would bet 4 Gero, while Asuka would bet no name. Kuru Usagi arrived at Jin's location along with Isekai. She was shocked because Kasukabe and Asuka were going to play a game with 4 Gero. She became angry and hit both of them on the head with a paper fan. Kuru Usagi also questioned Jin, who was with them. Jin apologized to Kuru Usagi. She couldn't forgive Galdo for what he had done either. After that, Kuru Usagi stopped worrying because Isekai could defeat 4 Gero on his own. However, Isekai didn't want to participate in the game. Kasukabe and Asuka had decided to challenge Galdo. If Isekai joined, Galdo would be defeated too easily. Kuru Usagi accepted this after hearing Isekai's words. Since the game would be held the next day, they decided to go to Thousand Eyes to inspect the gifts of Isekai, Asuka, and Kasukabe. Thousand Eyes was a large trading community that knew everything there was to know in Little Garden. Cherry blossoms fell as they made their way there. It was spring in that world. In Asuka's world, it was summer, while in Kasukabe's world, autumn had already begun. Kuru Usagi had summoned the 3 of them from different worlds, so she referred to it as the parallel world intersection theory. Kasukabe pointed to one of the buildings. That building was Thousand Eyes. Suddenly, A young girl came running out of the building. She sprinted and tackled Kuru Usagi. Both of them were thrown into the river. The young girl hugged Kuru Usagi in a strange way. Then, Kuru Usagi threw the girl towards Isekai. They all entered Thousand Eyes, and the young girl introduced herself. Her name was Shiroyasha, and she was an executive of Thousand Eyes. The main headquarters of Thousand Eyes was at the 4-digit gate. She knew Kuru Usagi from several events and had always helped her. Kasukabe asked about the gates. Then Kuru Usagi explained. The gates are one of the entrances to the wall that separates different layers of Little Garden. The smallest number is the one closest to the center, and the strongest inhabitants live near the center. Residents from the 4-digit and below, like Shiroyasha, are part of the upper class. Shiroyasha was also the one who gave the holy power to the water tree that Kuru Usagi received. Isekai considered Shiroyasha stronger than the White Serpent. Shiroyasha is the floor master of the eastern region. No community from the 4-digit and below could approach the eastern part because Shiroyasha is the strongest host. Isekai, Asuka, and Kasukabe provoked Shiroyasha. They wanted Shiroyasha to fight them. Shiroyasha told Kuru Usagi to stop worrying. Isekai asked Shiroyasha to play with them. Shiroyasha agreed. But before that, she pulled out a card and asked if Isekai and the others were looking for a challenge or a fight. Then the place transformed into a mountain range. It was one of Shiroyasha's game boards. It turned out Shiroyasha was the demon lord of the White Knight. Shiroyasha asked Isekai and the others once again. Isekai, who wanted to fight, went silent. Then he spoke. He gave up. He decided to remain silent and let Shiroyasha test him. Shiroyasha explained the game they would play. Isekai and the others had to defeat a creature. The creature flew from afar and approached Shiroyasha. That creature was Griffin. Shiroyasha wanted to test their strength against the Griffin. She handed the Geese roll to Isekai. The condition for winning was to ride on Griffin's back and circle the lake once. Kasukabe raised her hand and volunteered. She approached and tried to speak with the Griffin. The Griffin would lose its pride if it couldn't knock off Kasukabe. He asked what Kasukabe would bet in exchange for his pride. Kasukabe decided to stake her life. If she fell and was still alive, then the Griffin could eat her. Kuru Usagi and Asuka were worried and tried to stop Kasukabe, but Shiroyasha stopped both of them. Kasukabe climbed onto the back of the Griffin. The upper body of the Griffin was that of an eagle, while the lower body was that of a lion, just as her father had described. Kasukabe was ready and started the game. The Griffin leaped and soared into the sky. It could also walk on air. Asuka was worried as she watched Kasukabe. With the Griffin's speed and the cold mountain winds, the temperature above was slightly freezing. The Griffin flew behind the mountains. Kasukabe remembered her father's words. She had to use all of her strength to handle the Griffin. Her father often told fascinating stories when he was in the hospital. Kasukabe let her guard down, and the Griffin took advantage of the opportunity. The Griffin spun around, almost causing Kasukabe to fall off. Then, the Griffin flew vertically. Isekai guessed that Kasukabe had another ability besides talking to animals. An ordinary person would have fallen off by now, riding a Griffin that flew so wildly. Kasukabe clutched the carved wooden necklace around her neck. The necklace was a gift from her father. She could walk on her own thanks to that necklace. Kasukabe shouted that she would win the game and befriend the Griffin. The Griffin was nearing the finish line, but Kasukabe was on the verge of losing consciousness. The Griffin stopped, and as it was about to descend, Kasukabe fell off its back. Isekai stopped Kuru Usagi, who was about to rush to Kasukabe. Kasukabe's necklace glowed, and she walked on air. She descended and hugged Calico, who approached her. She could do this because of the bond she had formed with the Griffin. The Griffin asked Kasukabe to accept the gift it offered as proof of its defeat. Shiroyasha asked if Kasukabe had had that gift since birth. Kasukabe answered. The gift she possessed was thanks to the carved wooden necklace given by her father. Kuru Usagi approached and asked Shiroyasha to examine the gifts of Isekai and the others. Evaluating gifts wasn't Shiroyasha's specialty, but she had a solution. She handed each of them a card. The card was a gift card. The three of them had strange thoughts upon seeing the card. Koro Usahi explained the card's abilities. The card could store and name each person's gift. However, it turned out that Iseoi's gift was labeled unknown. Shiroyasha was impressed because the gift card couldn't read Iseoi's gift. Iseoi and the others went to the no-names location, which had been destroyed. The land there was barren. Iseoi thought that the gift game with the demon lord had happened hundreds of years ago, but the gift game had only occurred 3 years ago. The surrounding state made it seem as if it had happened around 200 years ago. But with the demon lord's power, this wasn't strange. Hearing the term demon lord made Iseoi excited. He thought it was incredibly interesting. Inside the Forest Guro headquarters, Galdo was sitting in his chair. Suddenly, a winged woman bit Galdo's neck. She did this because she had given Galdo the animal gift.